Welcome to the serial killer exhibition in Paris, France. As you know, if you've been following my channel for quite a while, this is the fourth town where the exhibition is taking place. It will last 4 months, from February 25 to June 25, and this is a new venue, and it's under the biggest tower in Paris, which is the Tour Montparnasse. The space is much bigger. If you hear sound behind me, it's because right next to the entrance there is the Friends experience, which is an experience by itself, but it's not a serial killer experience, it's different. This is the steps that will lead you to our experience, the serial killer experience, which is quite different from the experience that's happening right next doors. But fortunately for us, we will soon leave this space and enter the serial killer Paris exhibition. So for this stop in Paris, I've decided to do a video that will be a bit different from the others, because I've been asked a lot of questions about this exhibition, not only the Paris one but the previous ones. Lots of questions that I will try to answer in this video, and starting with how did it all started. Okay, so let me reminisce a bit. It actually started during the COVID scare, and right in the middle of the COVID scare, me and a friend, son, Henri, who is also a collector, we decided to go to Armin Meiwes' place. If you've seen other videos that I made, we found a few things at Armin's place. We found the freezer, the fridge, several torture instruments. And we knew that we had a potential for making a great exhibit with those objects for a museum. So we contacted a lot of museums. We contacted a lot of museums in the US. Unfortunately for them, most of the museums, they only are interested in American cases, and they don't want anything to do with European or German cases, because they don't know about them. So they didn't want to invest in those objects. But I had a friend in Italy, a collector called Roberto Paparella, who told me that he was looking for objects for an exhibition that would start in Milan. So we started the negotiations, and the problem was that because of COVID, we couldn't find a venue. Things were a bit paralyzed, but they were still interested in having the objects that we saved from the house. In the meantime, the house burned, so there was nothing left of it anymore, and we understood the importance of showing those objects for the true crime fanatics. So after a few months, I was contacted by the promoter of the exhibition and the CEO of Italmostre. Italmostre is a company that's specialized in those kind of events, exhibitions, etc. Usually they do dinosaurs, Egyptian artifacts, stuff like that. But he understood, because of the huge success of the Dahmer series on Netflix, that the world was ready for a serial killer exhibition, a traveling world exhibition, starting in Italy, of course. And he picked up the city of Milan in the north of Italy, because it's well known for being a place where in Italy you try new exhibitions to see how much they work. What is your favorite objects in the expo? I'll start with this because it's really cool. It is my first letter from Danny Rowling, the Gainesville Ripper, who inspired the movie Scream, among other things, and it's a personal letter that he sent to me, and we exchanged a few letters after that one. Really cool item from my collection. And let's go to another example of an object that I really like. The tie that Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, was wearing during his trial in Los Angeles in 1989. This was part of the Doreen Ramirez collection, and it ended up in my own collection. This drawing here is interesting because it's a drawing that Ramirez made, but it was based on the postcard that I sent it of a gargoyle from the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. Last but not least, we have items that belong to Gerard Schaefer, the killer cop. And it's a ring that he gave to my friend, my good friend, Sandra London. Very nice object as well. And I really insisted on having this object in the museum. One of the questions I'm often asked is, what do you think of all the critics about the expo? This is a serial killer expo, so don't expect paintings of flowers and shit. Don't expect pictures of puppies in baskets. Don't expect, I don't know what you expect, but we have to show the sheer reality, the reality of violence. Like objects like this is a chair, torture chair that was designed by BTK. He never had the time to actually build it, but he drew this. It was found in his shed. This is what it would be used for. And for us, it's important to show the reality and the brutality of torture. You see those, things that were meant to go on the nipples. This shows you in 3D what's in the mind of a serial killer. So it's important for us, of course, to show what's going on, to show the reality of crime, and it's a serial killer expo. So if you find that it's too brutal, it's too much for you, just, it's not your thing. Just, watch rom-coms or stuff like that. Don't get into crime if you cannot face the reality of serial murder. This is the reality of serial murder. Kawaii. People often ask me if I have any anecdotes on interactions with people, visitors of the expo who recognize me, who know who I am, and see me in the expo and see me in the real flesh. There's so many. There was a lot in Rome, there was a lot in Milan, there was a lot in London. Out of the blue, I can tell you about those two older gentlemen in Rome who approached me, and they looked in the 60s, and they told me that they really liked the expo and they wanted an autograph of something like along the lines of I will be your next, you will be my next meal or something, which sometimes people ask me that. But when I did the autograph, they said, okay, we have to show you something, and then they reached inside their jacket and they pulled out a police card. They were actually from the Roma crime brigade. They were actual cops investigating on violent crimes. I found this funny, and then I asked them if they had manacles, so we could do a picture of them, pretending to, carry me away in their station. So that's the kind of interaction that I like. People that are in the field, but at the same time they're not judgmental, and they understand more or less what this is all about, So I like this kind of interactions. But there's so many different interactions. And the best interactions I've had so far with the public are with what you would call regular people. People who are not, obsessed with serial killers, people who are not, trying to give themselves an image of being dark or being, girlish or anything. The worst interactions I've had were maybe with people who were into black metal, because they when they see me, they just walk faster and they lower their head and they turn white like if they've seen a ghost, because those are the people who live on an image of themselves, but when faced with the reality of murder and the reality of being face to face with me, they don't really enjoy the experience. But yeah, the idea is that I've come to terms with this idea. It's like I'm kind of like the elephant man in this. I'm like a freak show. I'm part of a freak show, and people come to see a real life monster, but then they realize that I'm human, and we have good interaction. So I like those moments. Which city did you prefer so far? Well, the first one, Milano, will always be my favorite because it was the first one, the first experience. In my opinion, the best public so far. They were really enjoying the expo. There was no people saying, yeah, it's too much, it's too dark or anything. No, they genuinely enjoyed the expo. The interactions with people I had were top. Milanese people are top people. Plus, it was the first, so it's so far that was my favorite. Did I like Rome? Rome was different. It was very far from the city itself. It was in a really nice location. It was a castle. If you've seen the videos that I did, you know what I'm talking about. But it was smaller. There was less people, and I still had some great interactions. London, I met some great people, some people who had been following me for years, and I met them for the first time. It was really great. The location itself was amazing. You've seen it on the videos. But maybe it was a bit rushed on my part. I didn't stay long enough. I don't know, but I really worked hard on it, so I didn't appreciate it as much as the Italian expos. Still had some great interactions. The press was shit. My interactions with the press were awful. With the Sunday, the Mirror, the Sunday Mirror, the Sun. All those interactions, they were. I didn't like them. The journalists were arrogant, and no, I didn't like those interactions at all. And when they asked me to participate again to this expo and to speak on behalf of them once again, I refused. Especially in Paris, there's no way that I can talk on behalf of the expo. It's not my job, and it sends mixed messages to the people who actually come to see the expo, because they think that it's my expo again, and that I'm part of the crew. I'm not part of the crew. I'm just a collector and a consigliere, a counselor, an assistant, not part of the crew. So let's see how it goes in Paris. I don't have huge expectations because if you know me a bit, I'm not a huge fan of how French people react to this kind of contact, and I'm not a huge fan of how the French deal with true crime in general, but you never know, maybe I will be surprised. At last, how do you feel about being in the expo? That's one of the main questions that people ask me. It's weird, and if we zoom back, maybe you will see behind me that it's not only one little corner, there's plenty of different items that for Paris they wanted me to bring or to get other collectors to bring. So it's a bit weird, to say the least. There's press articles, there's documents from the trial, There's my art, of course. There's stuff from back from 1994. There's the suit that I was wearing while I was working in the morgue. All this in French. And at first it felt really weird to be just seeing myself on display on the wall. That's for sure. Now I'm getting used to it. It's just the way it is. I just talked with a journalist who told me that he had noticed that there was a journal from his newspaper on display. And it was about my case. So, yeah, I knew this kind of things would happen, but, well, that's the way it is. This little corner here, it's interesting. It's actual stuff that was in my apartment in 1994. VHS tapes, books, records, etc. The idea at first was to kind of recreate my apartment, life size with the mannequin, and try to recreate the walls and the feels of the apartment. And I told them, nah, that's too much. What I can do is bring a few items that I still have from when I was 22 and that were in my apartment. They had not been seized by the police, so they were still in my parents' belongings when they took everything after the case back from that apartment. So these are actual objects that were in my apartment back in those days. They're here, but there's also newer stuff, of course. There's a portrait of the excellent Russian cannibal Alexander Pishkov that I did recently for the Cannibal Cookbook 2 that I wrote with my wife, Kat. And a resin skull based on Peter Curtin. Those, they were already in London. There's a newspaper on my case, on my trial, I mean. There's a painting that belongs to collector Roberto Paparella, and a portrait I did of Leonardo Cianciulli, which is the most famous Italian serial killer. So yeah, that's my corner. How do I feel about it? Well, I don't know. If I was ego-driven, I would say, okay, it's a revenge on life. Now that I have an expo under one of the main tourist attractions in Paris, which is the Tour Montparnasse, my paintings are on display, and I have a bigger case than Charlie Manson, which is right behind you. So yeah, if I was really ego-driven, this would be the pinnacle of my career, if you will, but I'm still down to earth. I know that this is mainly because I'm the only one who is able to actually bring documents from back in those days, and I kept those documents, so they were able to do a bigger display than the others, but it doesn't mean that I'm bigger than them. I'm just happy to be near my good friend Isagawa, who I corresponded with for so many years, and there's an actual portrait that is signed for me. Well, where are we? We are at the Armin Meyer's room, which has known some improvements since last time. Of course, if you've been following this channel, you know what's in there, and what's in there, the fridge, the freezer that I saved with my good friend's son from the flames, because as you know, the Armin mansion was destroyed by flames a few years ago. And this is the actual freezer, but you've seen that already. But what's new is this amazing piece by my good friend Roberto Paparella. This is brand new. He created this piece just for the occasion, and he just added a few torture instruments in the diorama, which, wow, is really impressive. You can see the torture instruments, the bucket filled with blood. This is my cage, well, the cage that belongs to me. As you can see, collection of Nicolas Claux. This is the actual cage where he would put some of his potential victims, because he met several other potential victims before meeting his actual victim, and he put them in this cage. The cage was located more or less this in the room. So this is based on the photos that were leaked from the infamous Armin Meiwes videos. Those are two photos that were leaked, where you can see the crime scene, and you can see it here, you can see it there. And Curtis chilling out.